Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to break down one of the most powerful frameworks out there for organizing business transformation, the TOGAF Architecture Development Method, or as you'll hear me call it, the ADM.
So many organizations start right here. You've got teams making decisions all on their own, and what that does is it creates these invisible walls between departments. You get all these vertical decisions, right, but no horizontal ones. So each department builds solutions that work great for them, but not necessarily for the company as a whole. And that, of course, leads to chaos. Technology changes start happening with no clear link to what the business is actually trying to achieve, and you just pile up technical debt. You get this weird situation where the business ends up changing to fit random IT shifts instead of the other way around.
Now, this lack of a unified approach, well, it leads to some really common pitfalls. Let's take a closer look at what those are.
See, without a unified plan, you end up with a business that's just constantly reacting to technology instead of directing it. And that creates this vicious cycle of putting out fires with short-term fixes that cause even bigger long-term problems.
But hey, there is a structured way to navigate all this complexity. We're going to walk through this whole journey together, and we'll use this agenda right here as our map.
The solution is a strategic, iterative cycle that really does provide a map for transformation. It's all about moving a company from fragmented, chaotic actions to coordinated, value-driven change.
Now, the ADM isn't some rigid set of rules you have to follow to the letter. Think of it more like a flexible guide for asking the right questions at the right time. It's really a framework for thinking, not just a prescriptive checklist.
You know, we can group the ADM's phases into 4 logical acts, which helps turn what looks like a complex diagram into a really clear story. So let's see how this builds, starting with Act 1.
Every successful journey, right? It always begins with preparation and a really clear destination in mind. This first act is all about laying that solid foundation before a single blueprint is ever drawn.
This is the fundamental question this first act answers. You have to get everyone aligned before the real work begins. I mean, without a crystal clear why, any how is really just a shot in the dark.
So, in the preliminary phase, you're tailoring the TOGAF framework to fit your specific company. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all deal. Then, in Phase A, you create that all-important architecture vision, which defines your scope, your goals, and your constraints. This makes sure the project kicks off with a clear mandate.
This stage is completely about alignment. It's about getting the right people, the right principles, and the right permissions all in place. You're basically building consensus and getting that formal green light to move forward with a shared idea of what success looks like.
Now, this quote highlights a really core concept in TOGAF, and it comes directly from the standards. Good principles provide a firm foundation for making all your future architecture decisions. It ensures they're consistent and totally aligned with the business's core values.
Okay, so our vision is set. Now we move on to designing the detailed blueprints for our future state. This is where that abstract vision starts to take on a concrete shape.
Phases B, C, and D. This is where the detailed architecture work really happens, across 4 big domains: business, data, application, and technology. This is where we create the blueprints that connect those high-level business goals to the actual tech that's going to deliver them.
And for each of those domains, you follow the same pattern. You define where you are now, that's the baseline, where you want to go, that's the target, and then you identify the gap between the two. And this just brilliantly illustrates the structured approach of the ADM. It's a systematic process of understanding the present to intentionally design the future.
A great plan is useless without a clear path to implementation, right? This act is all about making the architecture real. It's about building the bridge from the blueprint to reality.
Here, we totally shift from designing to planning. We identify concrete projects, we sequence them into a roadmap, and we establish governance to make sure the implementation stays true to that vision we defined all the way back in Phase A.
Now, governance isn't about control, it's about ensuring the value promised by the architecture is actually delivered by the projects on the ground. You know, every little trade-off made during implementation can impact that target state, and governance helps manage that complexity.
But the ADM doesn't just stop once a project is complete. I mean, the business world is always changing, and your architecture has to change right along with it.
Phase H ensures the architecture remains a living asset, adapting to new business needs and technology shifts, which prevents it from becoming obsolete.
And supporting all of this is requirements management, a central process that makes sure we never lose sight of those original business needs.
This slide just perfectly summarizes the payoff, doesn't it? The ADM moves an organization from a reactive, project-by-project firefight to a strategic, coordinated approach to transformation. It's really the difference between navigating with a map versus just reacting to the road right in front of you.
This is the key takeaway. It is not about doing a single, big architecture project. It's about building a capability for continuous alignment between your business and technology, making sure the enterprise is always ready for what's next.
And that's the strategic question the TOGAF ADM challenges every single enterprise to answer. Thank you so much for joining this explainer.